What's up, gang? Welcome back to DizDad TV. On today's episode, we're back on another reaction video. We're checking out the Disney Plus and Star Wars series Ahsoka. This is episode 3. Is this episode? Yeah. Episode 3. Sorry. Totally professional here. This is episode 3 of Ahsoka. If you want to check out my reactions for earlier episodes in this series, other Star Wars and Marvel content, any theme park Imagineering episodes as well, you can find it on the homepage of the channel. Links in the description below as well. Appreciate you guys checking that out. Yes, this is episode 3 of Ahsoka. Sorry about that. Fresh on the heels of a really good episode 2, if you caught my reaction for it. It's really kind of a nice 1-2 punch with those first 2 episodes. Met a few new more characters in episode 2. We saw Chopper from the Rebel series, which Chopper was great. Really enjoyed seeing him in live action and just added so much to that episode, especially when teamed up with Hera, and just really well done. Like to see that. And then this new Inquisitor looking character that we saw duel with Ahsoka there in Corellia. Again, if you got my reaction, I thought the Inquisitors were long since done by this point, so I have no clue who this is. Again, I'm assuming it's a former Inquisitor, or maybe it's still a current Inquisitor that's kind of has been hanging out. I don't know if this is somebody we're supposed to know, or if this is somebody we're gonna, oh yeah, we knew that person. I hope we're going to get a lot more about that character in future episodes. I feel like we have to. I feel like really all of these characters that aligned, kind of looking for Thrawn, I guess kind of friends of Thrawn for naming the group. But, we've got Morgan Elsbeth. I feel like we know a decent amount about her, even though we've not seen her a ton, throughout Mandalorian in these first couple episodes. But she seems like the most spiritually connected to Thrawn, both from an allegiance standpoint, but also kind of mentally. She mentions, being able to hear him, sense him. She seems like she's the leader of this group. She's the one that really wants to find him. We've got this Inquisitor character. And then, of course, the 2 Force characters, Balin, who we know by name, former Jedi, and his apprentice. But those 2 we don't know much about either. Just beyond, former Jedi, we know he's got some sense of honor, what have you, as far as the Jedi Order and Ahsoka. It's a little bit of remorse, perhaps. Some respect still there for the Jedi Order, but he's obviously long since moved on. But they seem really more tied into the whole power and money aspect of what they're doing at this point. So looking forward to, again, I'm hoping we get a lot more on both them and this Inquisitor character in future episodes. We set up a lot, as far as this season is concerned. We know Thrawn's like the overarching, Thrawn and Ezra, the overarching story of where we're going for at least part of this season. But they've kind of introduced this idea of going to another galaxy, which is where Thrawn and Ezra are, which I think is really kind of a cool, I guess this thing, is it called the Eye of Sion, I guess? Makes me think of Sauron from Rings of Power. But they've got this, this big, huge hyperspace ring, whatever this might be. And it's kind of a cool idea. I'm interested to see how they explore this. We've got this galaxy that we know and loved for, 40, 50 years at this point. And I kind of like the idea of going to another galaxy, not too hamstrung by some of the events, or I guess all of the events, from the OG trilogy and then the Force Awakens and what's coming down the road. So I like the idea of going somewhere new that you can do some things that aren't really going to majorly affect where you left. Of course, I say that and they'll probably will find Thrawn and come right back and they won't hang out there at all. So that's kind of how these things go. But I like if they explore that idea of going somewhere new. And again, this galaxy we're in, there's untold planets we've never seen on screen, so there's untold stories to explore here. But I like the idea of going elsewhere, so you can do some things that aren't going to really mess up what is kind of canon in the TV movie universe. So really interested to see that play out as well. And of course, we've had this underlying conflict and tension with Ahsoka and Sabine. I don't know if it's totally resolved just yet. We kind of see them make up. We're back to this master-Padawan relationship. I don't know how much more we're going to dive into what got them to that breakup point. And we know what's getting them back together is this whole idea of finding Ezra and Thrawn. So I think there's still some more to unpack with those 2 in future episodes as well. But again, really enjoying this series. Looking forward to what comes next. And again, I'm really interested in this whole idea of other galaxies and all that type of deal. So, all that being said, let's just go ahead and check out episode 3 of Ahsoka. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is cool. I mentioned, was it the first episode? Obviously the Western, but more so I've been seeing some of the samurai influences, and this one, you can see it again here.
Not bad, but not good.
Huyang, man, he is rough. Is that the Grievous mode, I guess, if you ever got to fight Grievous, which he's gone at this point, but...
Oh no. I'm not certain Lady Wren is ready for that technique.
Oh no.
Well, I discovered that according to Huyang, I'm the worst candidate to be a Jedi out of every Jedi he's ever known.
You told her that?
It's true.
He's so good for comic relief. He's very blunt. He's a droid, so it makes sense. But just the whole interaction between, especially him and Sabine, is hilarious.
I want you to see with more than just your eyes.
We've seen this before, haven't we?
Do you know where I am?
Next to Huyang.
Are you sure?
That was a neat trick.
Feel my presence. Take in all that is around you.
And you're dead. I know we've seen this whole training idea in Star Wars before, but I like they changed it up a little bit. It's kind of its own thing. Again, leaning into the samurai warrior. The music in the background is perfect. It's very subtle, but it's perfect for this. Love the callback, but love how it's kind of doing its own thing. It's getting better. Oh, spoke too soon.
Anger and frustration are quick to give power. But they also unbalance you.
She knows that all too well, doesn't she?
Let's go again.
I love that. Simple scene, but I love seeing, again, this relationship between the two of them, and Ahsoka comes with a whole bunch of baggage, you know, from what she dealt with Anakin in that revelation. But I love seeing the two of them work together. Kind of a new and updated version, you know, Jedi training. Very cool. Is that Mon Mothma?
Senators.
Hera, you look well. How's young Jason?
Fine, Chancellor. In fact, he's on board.
Oh, Jason.
Forgive me, Madam Chancellor, but if we could just hear the General's report. We're late as it is.
No small talk with that guy, is there?
They have all taken an oath of loyalty.
Long live the Empire doesn't sound like the kind of loyalty we're looking for.
Got a point.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
What's up with that guy?
Isn't this just another attempt to gain New Republic resources to aid in what has ultimately been your personal quest to find Ezra Bridger?
Were you ever in the war, Senator?
No.
You knew that was the response.
Just sat back and waited to see who came out on top?
Ooh.
I see no enemy. The Imperial fleet is scattered and broken. They have no centralized command.
Thrawn is not your typical Imperial officer.
Yeah, not at all.
I've spent most of my life fighting a war, and that's why I'm trying to convince you to help me prevent another one.
Allow me a moment to speak with my colleagues.
Of course.
Very impassioned plea from Hera there. Mon Mothma leveling up to Chancellor. New Republic senators will not learn their lesson.
Hey, Mom! Mom!
Oh!
Aunt Sabine is gonna be a Jedi?
Now, where did you hear that?
Chopper told me. I want to be a Jedi.
I wonder why. trying to think. He looks... We saw him in Rebels for what? 5 seconds, if that. I don't know how much older he is here. I mean, a couple of years maybe? So it's not that big a time jump from the very end of Rebels to now. Obviously some, but he looks, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, 11 there compared to 5, 6, 7 in Rebels.
I was hoping that the urgency of our situation could expedite my training a bit.
I don't think it works like that.
I can't use the Force.
The Force resides in all living things, even you.
If that's true, then why doesn't everyone use it?
Not everyone can handle the type of discipline it takes to master the ways of the Force.
Because with the Force, you can move a cup too.
I'm going to give this my best.
There is no try.
Any word from her about our support from the New Republic?
No, not yet.
Yeah, it's not coming. Seriously doubt it's coming.
You both knew this wouldn't be easy.
Well, what you said didn't help.
I only spoke the truth. Standards which were proven over a millennia.
And failed.
She's got a good point.
I don't need Sabine to be a Jedi. I need her to be herself.
No.
Very interesting.
You do come from a long line of non-traditional Jedi.
She does, doesn't she? Is she gonna stare intently at this? Think hard? Is he gonna move now?
You win this round.
Nope, didn't move. Thought it was gonna be a delayed move after she leaves the room.
Unfortunately, I won't be joining you for this one. And neither will the fleet.
Yeah, you figured that was gonna be the response.
We've entered the Denab system. All comm transmissions are being jammed.
I wonder why.
Drop out of hyperspace so far from the planet.
Standard Jedi mission protocol when approaching an unknown situation.
I feel like standard Jedi protocol is like the go-to response.
However, there also seems to be a second object, something much larger.
Yeah, you got company. There's our apprentice and there's our Inquisitor.
Tailgun, please.
On it.
Got a little space battle going on here.
Tailgun check in. I see you got rid of my presets.
Dang it, you got rid of my presets.
Hold it steady.
Remember, learn to anticipate.
Now's not the time for a lesson.
You're just a little rusty.
It's always time for a lesson.
Huyang, anything yet?
On the object, no. However, I have several thoughts on everything else going
Yang,
on.
not now.
Huyang is so good. Oh, there you go.
Good work.
Don't get cocky. I gotta say, I mentioned this watching Mandalorian. They've been doing a really nice job with these space dogfight type scenes. We saw several of them in season 3 of The Mandalorian, and we're seeing it again here. Really nice job of this. Oh, I got 2 more.
If I had to guess, I would say it is some sort of hyperspace ring.
I'd like to confirm that.
Oh yeah. That's no moon.
Prepare turbo lasers.
Turbo lasers.
Just keep the ship steady while I attempt to run my scan.
Easier said than done.
See if you can get a little closer.
Are you crosswise?
Let's get a little bit closer. Do you not see we're getting shot out of the sky?
This is intolerable.
You want it closer. Deflectors at 10%.
Yeah, I love the ship design.
Scan complete.
Oh. Too late? Nope. Still there.
Morgan, congratulations.
You almost got them.
Oh, wow. A little bit of shade there.
Work fast. I'm going out there.
Out there? Out where?
Just keep working.
Exactly. Out where? What is she doing? No. Oh, that's awesome. Totally crazy, but awesome. This is something Anakin would do too. She wouldn't want to hear that, but this is something Anakin would totally have done. Nice. That's cool.
Ahsoka! Sabine! Did you fix the ship yet?
This is floating by. Yeah, this looks so good.
Something up ahead.
Another ship?
No. That's crazy. That's the Purrgil. Oh, this is great. Gonna fly right in the mouth? Nope. Not gonna do a Jonah and the Whale, are we? Oh, this is crazy. We saw them just briefly in Mandalorian and it was kind of off in the hyperspace lane, so we didn't see them quite like this. I am curious. I mean, I know they've been in a planet's atmosphere before. We saw it in Rebels, but that's because they got kind of led there by Ezra. I don't know why they would be so close into this planet. I mean, maybe it makes some sense why they're building the hyperspace ring out there at the Eye of Sion with these nearby. But I don't know, there's got to be some kind of connection why they're here on this planet.
Oh, took my battery back up a while to cycle, I suppose. What did I miss?
Just a little bit.
Ah, yes. Standard operating procedure.
I'll tell you, it's the go-to line. Standard operating procedure. They're not going to sit down in a cave and be inside some monster's mouth, are they?
Shut the power down.
I protest. I have a lot of work to do.
Standard Jedi protocol.
Now we wait.
Haven't seen those creatures since the day Ezra disappeared.
Remember that.
So it is a hyperspace ring.
Yes, but I have never seen one built on this scale before.
Yeah, it's pretty huge.
The Jedi archives speak of intergalactic hyperspace lanes between galaxies, which used to follow the migration paths of star whales named Purrgil.
There you go.
Like the ones we just saw.
Really? When?
You missed a lot, buddy. You missed a lot.
Hunt them down.
He's so cool. He can say like 5 words in just his presence alone. Oh, is that it? Oh, it was a quickish episode. I didn't realize. Was that 30-something minutes? I guess the first couple, especially the first one, were super long. So makes sense we're not going to get them all that long, but that flew by. It was a good episode. I didn't drop off too much from the first couple. I know I'd mentioned having some deep concerns with Disney Plus and Star Wars and Marvel and just kind of hitting that barrier after the first couple episodes. But this was a good episode. It continued the story nicely. Some really good moments. Just entertaining. Again, maybe not as good as the first two, but it was not bad by any means, at least from my perspective. The whole dogfight scenarios they've had, again, Mandalorian, we saw it, with the pirates, him and Bo-Katan there later on that series as well. And in this episode, I think that's one thing at least I feel like they've excelled with in these Disney Plus shows is kind of the dogfighting. really kind of taking it up a notch from the films, in my opinion. So that was really well done. Ahsoka and Sabine there versus those. It's interesting too. With that 6 ships, and the only 2 that survive, of course, are our main character. It all kind of works out that way. It doesn't matter how many ships are up there, Jedi, Sith, whatever it might be, they're always going to be the ones to survive. Everybody that comes along with them is pretty much toast. You're never going to see a main character die in one of those scenes. It's kind of funny how that works out. But it was a good episode. We got the confirmation there, which kind of knew it had been mentioned and had been teased. Ahsoka and Sabine didn't know this, but we'd heard Morgan and Baylan, what have you, talk about it, and we'd seen the hyperspace, the ISI and hyperspace ring. So they're just now kind of getting into this. We'd seen the Purrgil as well. We saw them in live action here, but in the previous episode, we just saw them briefly, kind of the inscriptions there in that, not force, but whatever that shield thing was that Morgan was pulling up. But the Purrgil in this episode, that's amazing to see them. I don't know that I expected to see them, but it makes perfect sense why we would. Really curious to see if that's tied into this hyperspace ring and why they're building it here. When we saw the Mandalorian just briefly, when Grogu saw them, we saw them a couple times in Rebels. I don't recall them being this close to a planet before. I mean, I said Ezra had a way he spoke to them and drew some of them and helped them with the mission they were on, and actually a couple times, but I don't recall them just on their own. Typically they're out in the hyperspace lanes and out in deep space. So seeing them all there within that planet's atmosphere, interesting. So I'm curious if there's some reason why that's happening. And again, probably speaks to why they're building this hyperspace ring here where they're at. I don't know if they're entrapped somehow in that atmosphere, but that whole sequence, again, very cool. Really enjoyed that. Lots of hints of episode 4, I guess, in this episode. We have a lot of callbacks. We've seen this Mandalorian to a lesser extent, but we've seen it sprinkled in, and especially so far in this series, getting callbacks. And it's hard not to do with Star Wars because, especially with the OG trilogy, there's so many great moments, but we saw it some in this episode, especially kind of not recreations, but definitely callbacks and hints, and using those storylines, with the training montage, not a montage, but a training episode at the end of this episode with Ahsoka and Sabine. Again, changed up a little bit. So I liked, again, music has been on point with this series so far. Even not just the grandiose music, but just kind of the smaller aspects and the smaller scenes, and especially in that training montage there on the ship. Just kind of the small staccato, soft notes. It was just perfectly done, and they changed it up again. You got the face shield; she can't see anything, but we don't have the little robot droid going around, shocking her like we've seen before. It was different. The sword's different. She's not using the lightsaber; they're just using almost like a kendo type stick. We talked about samurai influences, and we saw some of that again in this episode. The whole dogfight, and Sabine goes back to getting the gun, and Luke, kind of those callbacks. And again, I'm not mad at it because, again, you're using some pretty great storytelling. Obviously, I want to do its own thing, but I like the homage you're paying to some of those tropes we've seen in Star Wars, and it worked with this episode. Again, loving the team up with Sabine and Hera. I'm sorry, Sabine and Ahsoka. Episode 3, Sabine, Ahsoka. Speaking of Hera, saw her in this episode, and we saw her son, Jason. Again, we saw him the very tail end of Rebels, and I want to say it was just for a few seconds. We see the two of them riding off in the Ghost. His father, Pat, if you didn't see Rebels, he's out of the picture. Is human, Kanan. Go watch Rebels if you haven't watched it. Obviously, he's mostly human, got the green hair. It seems like age-wise, a couple years gap. It's hard to tell from animation to live action. Maybe this is not that far in the distant future, but probably a couple. And maybe they've confirmed this. I just missed seeing it. But definitely seems like a little bit of a time jump, just a couple years perhaps. So gives us some idea of where we're coming from Rebels to here, and how long Ahsoka and Sabine were together, and how long Thrawn and Ezra have been out there. Again, New Republic, still early stages, still struggling. Again, we saw some of this in Mandalorian as well. Not doing the best at integrating, former Empire followers, which again is not a shock because there's quite a few of them across the galaxy, but still trying to integrate them into society in some aspect. You've got these senators that just will not learn. That seems kind of an all too common occurrence. And that one guy, I don't remember what his name was, but he seems a little fishy. I'm not going to say he's a Thrawn supporter, but it would not shock me. The other two just seem like they're your typical Coruscant politicians that just don't know any better. Again, we saw a lot of that. Even so, going back to Andor, you think about Andor, which would have been pre-Empire. So not really much has changed with Coruscant society, at least the bits and snippets we're getting. Really cool to see Mon Mothma. It's interesting, Mon Mothma. She just not going to have a huge role probably in this series, obviously, but it's like, who knew she would be kind of our connective tissue throughout Star Wars? There's more so, but we saw her. Obviously, we've seen her at Andor. Obviously, a different actor. We saw episode 5, 4, 5, 6. We saw her, and we're seeing her here as leveling up to Chancellor, no less. Sure, she doesn't have quite the power of Palpatine. I think they probably learned their lesson, at least for now, in that regard. But very cool to see her. Genevieve Riley, perfect in the role, and getting to see her and her connection to Hera, because again, she was there in animation in Rebels. I don't remember at what point, but she and Hera had interaction there, and we saw her come into the rebellion when she left Coruscant, which is very cool. Even post Andor, I guess, in the timeline. So it's kind of nice to have that connective tissue of seeing her from pre-Empire, post-Empire, and see. I don't know in the sequel trilogy if she referenced in 7, 8, 9. I don't have to go back and check that out. Somebody smarter than me will know that, but we're definitely going to another universe. When that's going to happen, I don't know if it's the next episode, but it seems like we're gearing up for some sort of planetary conflict. Sabine and Ahsoka. God, I am bad today. Sabine and Ahsoka are on this planet. Baylan Zeri is going to send forces out to look for them. Probably going to be some kind of skirmish there, I'd have to assume. So I don't know if we're quite ready to go off to that galaxy just yet. I guess we'll see, but obviously we're close enough because they're all kind of converging around this hyperspace ring. So we're getting close, and looking forward to seeing if that's what's next. Didn't learn too much about our other characters. We saw Baylan just briefly there at the very end, and he had just a couple words, but I love Ray Stevenson and his presence. He's perfect. Morgan Elsbeth, just a little bit. She's still kind of leading the charge. It was kind of interesting to see the back and forth, and I don't know the apprentice's name. I don't know if we've been given that name just yet, but seeing the little interaction hearing the interaction between her and the apprentice, when the failed destruction of Ahsoka and Sabine's ship, how that went about. That's something to kind of watch, I think, going forward. And the apprentice, I don't know who that actress is, and she's had very few lines, but I'm digging too. She's got kind of a scary vibe. She's very intense, but I'm loving what she's bringing to the role. We saw the Inquisitor character. I didn't quite catch the name. It almost sounded like Farouk, or I'm probably totally butchering that name, and didn't get much on them beyond just seeing them in this starfight. So, but story-wise, we're kind of progressing. We're getting there. And again, I'm liking where this is going. It seems like going to the galaxy is where we're off to next. How long we're there remains to be seen. But very much looking forward to that, and hoping we can dive more into these characters in future episodes. I guess we're going to do it without Hera, it looks like. I don't know if this is going to be a Sabine Ahsoka team up the rest of the way without help. So kind of good and bad in that regards. I'd love to see the Rebels team kind of back together, but I do like seeing this tag team of the two of them kind of working things out. Seeing them both kind of show off in this episode, whether it was from the gunfights or Ahsoka there, really showing out, going on the ship's hull. And again, that was a very Anakin-like, if you saw Clone Wars especially, and we saw some of it in the prequels, him kind of being that, really frustrating Obi-Wan with how gung-ho he was about doing things. And we saw a lot in the Clone Wars animated series. So to see Ahsoka kind of take on that role in this episode as well was really quite amusing to me, but very cool to see her get out and do that to show, because she's got quite a skill set. We saw it a little bit on display in the last episode as well. But yeah, another good episode. I can't really complain. Everything's looking great so far. I am really enjoying this and curious what you guys are thinking. Still into this. Don't think any reason to be lost if you're not a Rebels fan or didn't watch Rebels. Very self-contained story for the most part at this point. So little hints in there, here and there, but really enjoying this and what lies ahead. Definitely looking forward to it. If you've got theories of your own, who is this Inquisitor? Where are we going? What galaxy is this? Maybe this has been in the books in some fashion that I'm not aware of, but what are you guys thinking at this point? Comment down below. Look forward to chatting with you about it. But all that being said, thank you so much for joining us for reaction. And until next time, I will see you for episode 4 in Ahsoka.